Dr. Isaac Bogosh, an infectious disease specialist at University Health Network in Toronto, and Dr. Samir Gupta, a respirologist who also teaches at the University of Toronto, and both of you joining us from outside the studio. Thank you for making the time for being with us. Dr. Gupta, I'll start with you. Question number one. Should I be disinfecting fruits and vegetables that I buy from the grocery store? And if so, how?
Well, so that's a tough one. I think the first thing to say is that, COVID-19 days are not the days that people should be going out and palpating 10 mangoes to find the most ripe one. So if you touch it, you buy it. But if you are buying produce, you don't know who else might have touched it. So the safest thing to do is to bring it home and to wash it down with soap and water, particularly if you're going to be consuming the skin and particularly if you're not cooking it.
Right. And talking about food, I mean, Dr. Bogosh makes me think of delivery, takeout, coffee. Is all that safe?
In general, I think it would be rather safe. But of course, we know that other people have been handling this. They might hold the bag and pass the bag to you. So I think just adherence to hand hygiene is appropriate. And after, you get your bag and you take your food out of the bag, it's just a good idea to wash your hands with soap and water or to use an alcohol hand sanitizer.
Okay, Dr. Gupta, next question for you. Are children really more resilient to this coronavirus, and why?
So just looking at the numbers, it looks like a lot fewer children were infected from the original studies that are coming out of China and other places now, around 1%. And so that does suggest that they either don't get it or they're better at fighting it off. Several theories around that. One of the theories is that there are 4 other coronaviruses which are sort of the cause of common colds. And one theory is that, kids are always getting sick, so they may have more recently had one of these coronaviruses so that when they get exposed to the novel coronavirus, their immune system is kind of primed and ready for it.
Okay, Dr. Bogosh, next question for you, also from a parent, I suspect. Can my child have sleepovers or get together in small groups?
I think there's a bit of nuance here. And of course, we're told to really practice social distancing and really keep our space between other people and really not get into large congregations of individuals. Having said that, we're social creatures and we have to live our lives. And this is obviously going to have a large psychological impact on people in addition to, a clinical impact if people get this infection. So really small gatherings, I think if everyone's healthy and well, between a small group of people, like a couple of kids having a sleepover, is probably acceptable. But, if this is going to be one of those big birthday parties with, 10 or 15 kids coming over, that's out of the question. But with just a couple of kids there, I think that's reasonable.
Okay. Dr. Gupta, next question for you. Could schools be shut down even longer than they already have?
I think definitely. I think people need to get ready for that possibility. Already some schools have extended the closure by a week. As long as we're talking about social distancing, we're not going to be in a position to say it's okay for kids to go back to school. That really is the opposite of social distancing. I think people need to think about strategies to start educating their kids at home as this period gets longer and longer.
Dr. Bogosh, is it safer to meet other people indoors or outdoors?
I don't know. That's a tricky one. We're going to be meeting people, and of course, keeping our distance from them. And when we think about out of doors, if we talk about droplet particles, that how this can be transmitted through droplet particles, usually those don't float around in the air. They sort of land within a foot or two from where they're released from somebody. So, maybe technically it might be slightly safer outside, but I think it might actually just not be that relevant.
Okay, and Dr. Gupta, we've got time for one more question. This one's for you. Can COVID-19 cause long-term damage to your health?
So I would say not for most people, but for people who get really sick, certainly that's a concern. We know that it can cause pneumonia. It also causes something called acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS. We know that pneumonia and ARDS in itself can leave scars in the lungs and people can have long-term problems with breathing. We also know that when people get really sick and end up in the ICU, there are long-term consequences from that. It's a very traumatic thing for the body. And people have some loss of function after a long time in the ICU. So if people the people who get really sick from this, they will have long-term consequences from it. But the good news is that most people won't get really sick from it.
Okay, smart questions, smart answers. Dr. Gupta, Dr. Bogosh, thanks so much for your time.
Anytime.
Thank you.